Here we have verse 31 of the 7th chapter of the Gospel of John. We have Jesus in this public situation there in the temple in which he's been exclaiming somewhat loudly and probably somewhat dramatically, at least as John tells the story, concerning his claim to have come from God, that even though some may think they know something of his background, nevertheless none of them really understand it. And the religious leaders, of course, are concerned about how they might stop this fellow. He's getting so much traction publicly that they're beginning to be a little bit alarmed about that, presumably. Some in the crowd, of course, are skeptical. Some are wondering what exactly the religious leaders are thinking and how they can align themselves with them. But then we learn that there are others in the crowd who are actually becoming persuaded that this one is actually very likely the Christ. And we see evidence of that now as John continues to tell the story here in verse 31, beginning with the preposition ek, which takes the genitive and means out of. So ek, out of, to the genitive article, the oklu, the crowd. So out of the crowd, but the postpositive, many. So many is the subject of the sentence, many from the crowd, epistusan, the third person plural, aorist active indicative. So many out of the crowd believed, eis auton, believed in him. The preposition eis takes the accusative, so they believed in him, the accusative, singular, masculine pronoun. Many believed in him, kai, and elegon, this is the imperfect, third person singular, imperfect active indicative, and we're saying, so they believed in him. We don't know the extent to which they believed. We don't know if this is full-orbed faith. John sometimes uses this expression to refer to something less than what we would call a full and complete biblical faith, so to speak, and yet nevertheless they are believing in him to some deep and significant degree, and we're saying to one another, ho Christos, the Christ, hotan, when, this is an adverb, the on at the end of it, hotan, usually means that it's going to have the subjunctive in connection to it, and that's what we have here. So el the is the aorist subjunctive, third person singular, when he comes. The idea of the subjunctive here is a little bit of a uncertainty about it, but the idea is if and when he comes would be the notion. So the Christ when he comes may, and then pleiona. This is an adjective. It's neuter. It's the plural accusative, and it is a word that has to do with contrasting degrees, so greater than. The idea here is poiese, he will do greater than, only it's negated here, he will not do greater than, and then the relative pronoun here, hon, which is in the genitive, than this, these things which are taking place. So the Christ when he comes will not do things greater than these. Signs, of course, is what we're referring to here. So the future, poiese, from poieo, to make or to do, is referring to the Christ when he comes is not expected to do any greater signs than those which are in fact being done. This one, poiesen, this is now the same word, poieo, but it's the third person singular aorist active indicative, and so these things what he has done. The force of it, of course, is that these in the crowd are observing what Jesus does. They're aware of the signs that he's performed, and they're saying, hey, what more could we expect from the Messiah? This man is meeting all of the criteria. He's checking all the boxes. This must, in fact, be the one. And so many in the crowd are being moved to some degree of faith, while, of course, we understand that others in the crowd are still skeptical. And certainly the religious leaders in the crowd, whatever their internal beliefs were concerning Christ, are seeing this as a considerable threat to their status in the community and are actually begin to engage in a certain degree of plotting as to how they can rid themselves of this one who is beginning to be a troublemaker and a nuisance from their point of view.